This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. We have some emails to get to tonight, some voicemails. Shouldn't be as long of a show as last week, but famous last words, right? Hope you're all doing well as we close out the show, or my shows anyway, for the week. Feels like I've been doing a lot of shows lately, even though it's the same amount. I digress. Not really a complaint, just, man, some weeks you're just ready to get over with, you know? Some weeks you're just ready to say, all right, you know, I'm done. I'm game. Good night, the lights. So, but let's get through this episode here. Let's get through all of your emails and your voicemails, and we'll prioritize all the patrons who have spent the time to write in. And of course, we're going to get to everyone else. We should get to everybody tonight. And I'd like to remind you that if you want to get ad-free access to the show, you have two options. Apple Podcasts has a built-in trial right now in the app, and on patreon.com/WWE podcast. And we're a lot of great opportunity there to connect in the Discord server and also get a extra show that is not available to everyone else, which is the After Dark show, only available to the SmackDowns here and above, and video, which I was going to put out today. My actual big boy job, unfortunately, didn't allow me to, but I'll be doing that tomorrow, and some more in-depth thoughts on what's going on right now in WWE. And then, of course, Week in Review comes this week. But we've got a lot of options for you guys if you want to go ad-free, including WWEpodcast.com. All right. With all that said, let's get to our very first email here. And patron Peter P says, Elimination Chamber. As an Aussie, I can't tell you how awesome it is to have the Chamber in Perth and start time locally. Most other countries are having to get up at all hours of the night to watch the PLEs, so it's nice to get a win. This could be outdated now as I'm just listening to the Week in Review, and you were curious about why Bronson Reed got the win over Gable. Is it possible to see many of the Aussie wrestlers getting a slight to substantial push to make them a better draw for the crowd, better draw card for the Chamber? That's absolutely a very strong possibility. In fact, I would imagine Rhea Ripley will still be champion going into that event. Probably a big spot for Grayson Waller, you know. Absolutely. I mean, WWE is no stranger to pushing the stars of the ethnicity of the country in which they are about to go to. They've done this how many times with Mansoor, or Mansoor before he was Mansoor. Of course, he's no longer employed. We've seen it with even Jinder Mahal as champion at one time before they went to India on a tour. And so they're no stranger to doing this. I mean, think about what they did with, what was it, Extreme Rules? Was it Extreme Rules when they went to the Dominican Republic? Or Puerto Rico, rather. And we had Zelina Vega headlining the women's championship match. And, of course, the return of the LWO and that whole deal, right? And Bad Bunny. This is a very common pattern. It makes sense. I'm not faulting them for it, but you can pretty much bank on the answer is yes to that. Now, let's see. So you guys are getting Chamber. I'm jealous. Not just because you get a PLE, and not just because you finally get a win for the hours in which it's going to actually be on. So for us, I don't know what time it'll be, like 9 a.m., which is bizarre for us in the United States. But, you know, it's about time you guys get a normal time to watch wrestling. However, the rumor right now is, the rumor mill is that The Rock isn't just going to work WrestleMania 40. That, in fact, he's going to work one or two dates before WrestleMania 40. So one of those dates is the Elimination Chamber PLE. So that would be a hell of a show if The Rock had a match of some sort. Probably a tag team match. That's my guess, that they don't do a one-on-one yet with The Rock until WrestleMania 40 with Roman. But so that's the rumor right now. Don't hold me to it. But thanks, Pete, or Peter. Don't know what you prefer. All right, let's get to Efren. Efren says, hey, I've never been a contributor on Patreon for any podcast before, and believe me, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I decided to be a patron to your show because I recently got back into wrestling because my oldest son is really into it right now, and I think this would be an amazing bonding experience to have with him. Plus, I love the show and how deep you go into all the matches. Now, the question that you are probably asking yourself is, why is this guy telling me all of this? Well, it's because my son and I have a question. With John Cena not having a partner to go up against Sammy, or rather Solo and Jimmy, do you think that Fastlane John will come out and still not have a partner, and once it looks like the match is about to start, The Rock's music hits and he will team up to go against the Bloodline? That's the only logical theory that I can come up with to place The Rock on a collision course with Roman. Plus, we already saw John and Rock give each other a huge hug on SmackDown. I don't know, maybe I'm pulling at too many strings, but what do you think? Well, Efren, first of all, before I answer your question, shout out to you and your son. It's actually what I'm looking to do too, is indoctrinate my son into the wrestling cult as well. He's 5 right now, and much to the dismay of my wife, I will be indoctrinating him into our cult at some point. I'm not sure how old your son is, but that's awesome, and I would agree. Great experience with your son. I'm looking forward to it those days as well. Now, and thank you, and shout out to your son too, if he's listening. As far as who comes out to help John Cena, now assuming that AJ Styles is quote unquote unable to compete with Cena, he's unable to because of the attack by Solo Sikoa last week. The Rock is a possibility. I'm not ruling it out. I don't think WWE wants to jump on Rock and Bloodline yet, because there are other opponents that Roman Reigns has to get through before we get to Rock Roman. And one of them is the person in which I think is going to team with John Cena at Fastlane, and that is Randy Orton. I think Randy Orton could do this. Now, again, this is assuming that we don't have AJ Styles gutted out and he's able to actually compete with John, right? It's still possible that happens. It's still possible it's AJ Styles, and I wouldn't hate that either. AJ Styles has a big bone to pick now with the Bloodline. But if it's going to be another star above AJ, I would think it's Orton. I'm not ruling out Rock, but probably Randy Orton, because he, from 18 months ago, was injured by the Bloodline, and he has a bone to pick with them too. So that is also my pick if AJ is unable to compete. Thanks for the question, and thank you, Efren, and you and your son enjoy. All right, let's keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. See what I did there? All right, let's talk to another patron here. It's Bad Fish. He says, first off, thanks for reading my email in the weekend review. We all heard the news that Jade Cargill has signed to WWE. I wonder where she will go from here. Do you think she'll be the one to take down Nia Jax? So, it's fun right now to think about the fantasy matchups for Jade, isn't it? But most of us, let's be honest, have not really seen her work in AEW, and myself included. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have. I've seen, very, very brief highlights of her work. From what I understand, she's not exactly the WWE style that they want yet. Now, that's why she's in the Performance Center, working on getting her, comfortable with and used to the WWE style, and making sure that she's safe. She's working to the best of her ability, all that stuff, right? That she has good chemistry with others. That all is what they're doing with her right now. Now, how long it takes to conform her to WWE style remains to be seen. I would imagine they feel it's sooner than later with all the promotion that WWE is doing already for Jade Cargill. And again, on paper, it's fun to think about who she could be facing. Bianca Belair immediately comes to mind. Of course, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez and Nia Jax and Piper Niven, right? I think Nia Jax would eventually be somebody that she works with. But to say she'll be the one to take down Nia, it's sure she could be. She could be the one to do that. And I don't think Jade is going to go for the women's title right away anyway. So she's probably not going to go after, the SmackDown champion, or rather the women's WWE champion of Io Sky. And she's not going to go after Rhea Ripley yet. I would imagine when she debuts, which my guess is anywhere between the Survivor Series pay-per-view and the Rumble, that she does go after a Nia Jax. I think a Nia Jax is a perfect foil for her, because that's someone she can't toss around, that she can't manipulate, that she can't just have her way with because of how Jade Cargill is built. Right now, let's be honest, Jade Cargill got a contract because of how she looks. Let's be honest. Now, her work, from what I've seen on the mic and in the ring, isn't abysmal. But if they feel that they can work on that, they mostly signed her for how she looks, which is very unique looking. She might be the most cut, jacked woman in WWE, and that's saying something right now. We've got a lot of those right now. But bringing her in, she would still stand out. That would put Raquel Rodriguez's back flex to shame, which already is just shameful, but that's another story. All right, second, I have the horrible feeling that Cody is going to announce that he's the one trading to SmackDown. He always seems to want to talk about it and gets interrupted. Help us all if that's the case. Well, if they want to get to Roman and Cody before WrestleMania, let's do it. Fine. That's kind of the way of killing two birds with one stone, where the people that are on the Cody train that feel he should get the spot instead of The Rock, presumably, at WrestleMania 40, you can get that match out of the way and have him face Roman at the Rumble. And then you have Roman Reigns and The Rock, whether it's for the title or not for the title, at WrestleMania 40. Still think it's going to be for it because WWE can't help themselves. But I actually don't have a problem with that. I really don't. If Cody's the one to go to SmackDown, so be it. And again, if they want to get the Roman Cody match out of the way, cool. They want to get to that at that January timeframe in a few months. Let's do it. Get it done. You can have Rock Roman and Cody Roman. So now, Cody is also the face of Raw. One of the faces he is, despite the fact of how I feel about his babyface character. He is one of the big faces of Raw. He's a massive babyface on Raw. And him leaving would leave a sizable hole, but right now you have Seth Rollins filling that role of a babyface as well. So you're not leaving Raw without a top babyface. Seth Rollins is your top babyface, and he is your champion. So, hey, I'm cool with it, actually. Last, was it me or did Dominic seem like a real champion on Monday? His match was great. No Judgment Day shenanigans. The match of the night was that one for me. Hope everyone's doing great. Have a great weekend, WWE Podcast fam. Well, I'm glad you brought up Dominic, because he got a nice retribution match this week where he was completely squashed last week by Cody, which was still just a stupid booking decision. Just terrible. I'm not blaming Cody for this. I'm not blaming Dom. I'm blaming creative on this one. Squashing your top heel like that is, you talk about just pouring cold water on a fire. Why? But Dom did partially redeem himself this week, showing us that he doesn't always need the interference to win a match. He can win it on his own, and that's fine. That's what you need. That's actually the way you repair a heel. If they've been damaged too greatly by a babyface, is have that heel win clean. It can happen. It doesn't make the crowd hate you anymore. It actually sometimes frustrates the crowd more, because they're thinking to themselves, oh man, he doesn't have to cheat to win, which means he can just outright beat the baby faces. Somebody's got to stand up to this guy. So, also, I'm glad you brought up Dom, because there's a video circulating right now where somebody caught footage of, I think Dom was arriving at an arena for Raw or something. I didn't get the details, but he denied fans autographs. That's awesome. I mean, that's MJF stuff right there. That's old school heel, where you actually stay in character even when you're not on camera. I love it. I got to say, if I was a wrestler, I would want to be a heel, because I'd probably be so miserable from being on the road and no sleep and all that I really don't want to have to feel like I have to sign autographs and stuff. And I would have to fake it if I'm a babyface that, oh yeah, no problem. Blah, blah. But if I'm a heel, I could just like, hey, no, screw you guys. It would just be kind of not having to hide how you feel on the road. So, all right. Well, thank you, Badfish. And let's see here. Let's see. We have another patron, and this is Freeman, and he says, "Hey, WWE Podcast. Recently, I've been writing in quite a bit. Upon reflection, I've noticed that my previous messages have often carried a tone of criticism and negativity. This week, I've made a conscious decision to switch gears and craft a more positive mailbag to share with the community. First off, let's talk about Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Their chemistry on screen has been fantastic, and I really hope this partnership isn't a one-time thing. It would be great if they could develop a catchy slogan or nickname to solidify their partnership and make it a long-term pairing. It's clear that Theory could benefit from having a faction behind him, and Waller seems like a great fit. They both share a brash, outspoken style and just the right amount of swagger. Speaking of factions, Damage Control doesn't seem to be gaining much traction. Incorporating Austin and Grayson into this faction could inject some much-needed excitement and energy. Seems like a long stretch, but I feel them joining a faction would be better than forming a new one, and maybe this would improve Grayson Waller's 65% loss record. 65 seems low. I mean, I gotta say, but you may be right. He has picked up a victory or two lately, and the sample size isn't too big, so every match has a large impact on that percentage. Now, I'll just say off the top, I don't think Grayson Waller and Austin Theory would, insert themselves into a female faction. But at the same time, I also agree with you. I don't want a new one, because having a new one means we have yet another one of another heel faction. We certainly have our fill of those right now. And I'm okay with them being a tag team, to be quite honest, or adding a manager where they're not a faction, but they have a mouthpiece that can also, draw heat, something like that. And I actually don't want a faction simply because the number of factions is a little too much right now. But no, I don't think Damage Control would be a good fit just because it's female and it gets wonky. But I do like the pairing of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. They work well off each other. They're the same age. They're kind of in the same tier of stardom right now. Even though Austin Theory's had so many matches with actual Hall of Famers at this point. I mean, he's interacted with Austin. He's interacted with The Rock. He's taken a stunner. He's taken a people's elbow. He's worked with John Cena at WrestleMania. He's worked with Edge. And yet Austin Theory still kind of feels like he's not there yet. It's weird. But they do kind of feel like they're in the same class, don't they? They're young. They feel like the stars of tomorrow, but they're not there yet. And they could use each other. And honestly, I don't mind if they have ultimately become tag team champions. Don't forget that the Judgment Day are the tag team champions right now of Finn Balor and Damian Priest. But that doesn't mean you can't transfer to another heel team that may need it more. And Theory and Waller as tag team champions, I think that actually would be better. Next, I just want to say more and more of my predictions for Shinsuke and Seth seem to be coming true. I said last week that Seth's hubris will be his downfall, and this story seems to be unfolding exactly as I described. Shinsuke using his desperation to force a match on his terms is beautiful storytelling, and a last man standing match sets up exactly the ending I said last week. So I'm calling it now. Seth Rollins retains, but is unable to keep the belt. I know last week I said suspension, but I will call now that it's actually medical. and that Seth walks out of the arena with the belt, but is forced to concede due to his injury. Who knows? Maybe this is the time that the Money in the Bank is cashed in, but I don't think that will make for a story as compelling, especially while Damian Priest holds the tag team titles. So I would put my money on he advocates the title. Yes, advocates was chosen to try and Cody Rhodes up the sentence. I knew it. I knew it. Okay. Well, so I don't hate this. I would say that this only should be done if Seth is actually going to go out for repairing his in real life injury. That back injury is a real injury. So if he feels that he can get this surgery done and have him rehabbed and ready before WrestleMania 40 and, Rumble season, then, if I were him, I might do it. It's kind of the time of the year to do it if you have a light to moderate injury that you need to get surgery for and nurse to be back in time. If it's something that he can maybe gut out past WrestleMania 40 and nurse it the best he can and then, whatever he needs to do, then I would opt to do that. But it's all going to depend on his real life medical situation. All right. And good call on the storytelling. The Io Sky Asuka match was mesmerizing and the highlight of SmackDown, but not something I thought would be handed out so quickly. Given this, and with Bayley and Charlotte Flair both being involved, however briefly, tells me that WWE doesn't trust those two to carry a match on their own. I don't understand why they aren't allowed to speak or show off their skills. Interviews they have done outside WWE show that they have good English skills, much better than Shinsuke, who seemed to struggle much more with English. But they are almost fluent, especially Io Sky. They have heavy accents, but so did Andre the Giant, and that never stopped him. Arguably at a time where having a thick accent would have been worse for your career, so I hope they are given freedom to shine going forward, and we get a rematch with a little more build. I'm all for that too. It was one of the highlights of SmackDown. I did enjoy Io Sky and Asuka, but I will say with you in concert with you it felt a little underwhelming from a build standpoint. I feel like that match should have felt more special, even though they executed it very well. It's the build that was disappointing where, I went into this going, it's a match that we wanted, but I feel like I should be more excited about it. And I agree with that. Yes. The highlight of Raw this week was easily Dirty Dom and Dragon Lee, but booking that on the same night as having Natalya and Tegan Nox made me feel like I was actually watching NXT rather than Raw. I love the fact that they are bringing more of NXT's talent into the main brand, but having two of their titles from the basis of Raw was a little bit too much. I approve of the direction they're going in displaying the talent of NXT on the main brands, but I feel that spacing it out would do better than cramming multiple segments into the night, especially with multiple storylines going on that need their own time as well. Yeah, Dragon Lee and Dirty Dom, excellent match. People chanted this is awesome in a match that Dom was in. That tells you something right there. And bringing more NXT talent to the main brand, that is always a good thing. It doesn't need to be its own island. And it doesn't need to be also just a one-way street. Having Becky Lynch go back and help out the new talent, bring in some star power, boost ratings for a while, bring more eyeballs over for people that otherwise wouldn't be watching. All of that is important. All right, Nia Jax's segment I think was awful. I would agree with that. And no, you don't need to be positive. Here's the thing. I have a rule on the show that I know some people don't like, and I've taken a lot of criticism for it. Although, here's the thing too on that. When someone criticizes me about something they don't like about the show, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to triple down on it. I'm going to turn heel on you. So I'm not saying you specifically, Freeman. I'm talking to the general you, the people that don't like the show. So people are, you're too negative. Guess what I'm going to do, right? It's a bad thing to tell me about things you don't like about what I do because I have this instinct. I don't know if it's a feature or a flaw, but maybe a little of both. But it's just my instinct. I don't know. I tell you, I would be heel in wrestling. That would be my true calling. But yes, Nia Jax's segment was awful. She can't talk. She can't cut a promo. That's what it comes down to. I've said a few times before, I'm relatively a recent fan. I only started watching 3 months ago, so I had no idea who she was when she came back. The reaction I've seen everywhere wasn't exactly great, but I wanted to hold off on forming my own opinion until she had an actual match. Now that she's had it, I don't understand why she was brought back. She didn't sell a single move. Every hit she took she looked away slightly and didn't change her facial expression. I don't care what her past reputation is. People change and get better and grow new skills, but she essentially looked like Zoe wasn't doing anything at all, which I felt disrespected a wrestler. That has been impressing me more and more, and I hope this isn't a sign that Zoe Stark is going to get a Chelsea Green treatment, another wrestler that impresses me but who keeps getting beaten down in short matches. But I'm also trying to be positive, so I will say, although the words of Nia Jax weren't that entertaining, her accent and the way she said squash made me smile. Well, you got a little something out of it then. But here's the thing. First of all, again, on this show, if you have something negative to say, we don't shy away from it, okay? Don't ever be positive just because people, you want to think that I want to hear something positive. No. As long as you're being authentic in your opinion. I don't want you to change your opinion for something you think I want to hear, right? So that's the rule here. But as far as Nia Jax goes and Zoe Stark and the no selling by Nia, I think that's kind of Nia's gimmick. She's so big and so dominating that she undersells things because she's twice the size of most of the women on the roster. She just is. But I was disappointed to see Zoe Stark get squashed so quickly, given that she was working with Trish Stratus for months, stands up to Trish at the last PLE, and then she gets squashed by Nia. Yeah, that was not good. Lastly, I just wanted to respond to your comment on the wrestlers introducing the event by saying welcome to Raw at the start of the last match. And upon reflection, I believe you're completely right, and it's a little distracting and demeaning to our intelligence. We already know what the show is. We don't need to be pandered to. So it's in this vein that I want to recommend an improvement to the podcast at the start of every episode. You say hello and welcome to the WWE podcast. And we even have a clip beforehand telling us what podcast we're listening to. Why do you need to be told all the time we are listening to the WWE podcast? Why do you need to be polite and welcome us to the show? Seems a little redundant. I hope I made my point. Well, here's the thing. I'm not running a national televised show. Okay. That's not. I'm running essentially a 2023 radio show that's now been formed into podcasting. But I'm also not running a sports entertainment or simulated sport. That's the key too. I understand your point that it's kind of, well, you do it. You see how. Well, you do it every single time, the way you open the show. Why? Well, it's the same thing with WWE. No, it's not. You know why? Because I am not trying to present myself as a simulated sport where anything could happen, right? That's the narrative you hear all the time. WWE is an environment and a place where anything could happen, right? And when I see a simulated sport that I want to be invested emotionally in, and I know the first thing out of that person's mouth is going to be welcome to Monday Night Raw, no matter who it is or what storyline's going on or how serious the situation is or what happened last week, that person will say that. That's the difference. I understand your point, but it's apples and oranges here. Okay, that's the difference. WWE is taking away, it takes you out of the moment, right? I'm not putting on a simulated sport. They are. And when you know who's going to say what every single week and that line trumps anything going on in any storyline, it takes away from the moment. It takes you out of it takes you completely to the other end of what WWE tells us the show is about, which is anything could happen. Oh, it's so unpredictable. No, it's not. That's why it bothers me so much. So, all right. Well, Freeman, thank you so much. Let's, where we go? Let's go to DJ. What are we talking about here? Let's talk to DJ. He's back at it again on our mailbag. He says, is there a possibility of a rift between Rey and Santos Escobar and the possibility of a Santos heel turn? Santos was attacked from behind by Theory 3 weeks ago, before Payback and was replaced by Mysterio to defeat Theory to become the new U.S. champion. Then 2 weeks ago, there was this kind of awkward interaction between Rey and Santos in the ring, where Rey felt kind of offended when Santos asked him for a U.S. championship opportunity. They made it as professional as possible, though. They really tried to make it look like Santos and Rey were just two professionals, and that Santos had always dreamed about working with Rey. But here's the thing. I think you're right. And the reason I think you're right is not because Santos and Rey should turn, or Santos should turn on Rey just for the sake of it. There's another man out there, and his name is, you guessed it, L.A. Knight. Yeah, that's why. Because L.A. Knight is going to have to eventually interject himself into this. That's a path that we all assume he's going. And he can't beat Rey Mysterio for that U.S. title. Now, they could have a triple threat with Rey and Santos and L.A. Knight, but if they do, that means L.A. Knight is going to have to pin Santos and not Rey. I think that's probably the path they're going, or it's Santos beating Rey underhandedly, and then Santos drops it to L.A. Knight. But it will not be L.A. Knight versus Rey Mysterio, so odds are you're probably right. Santos to turn heel as kind of the bridge from Rey to L.A. Knight, instead of having that, kind of awkward, love for Rey that the fans have and the rising star of LA Knight. 2, fast forward to this Friday on free TV. There will be a U.S. Championship match between Rey and Santos, which will most likely be Rey retaining again. Interesting as to what the direction with the LWO is after the match this Friday. Does the LWO officially turn on Rey, and do they continue to feud with Bobby and the Street Profits? I think it's the latter. They probably continue to feud with Bobby and the Street Profits. Kind of a newly formed program, relatively new. So I think that they finish that out first before anybody decides to disintegrate the LWO. 3, and by the way, we definitely need factions that aren't heel. So there is that too. Now to Bobby and the Street Profits. After the Profits' embarrassing loss to the LWO last week, I like the way how Bobby gets really angry towards the Street Profits in the locker room, because I look at it as the Street Profits need to embrace an edgier side to the characters a bit more, and at times it looks they revert back to the Red Solo Cup, happy to be here, happy and entertained gimmick. Bobby's not about that, and that's exactly right. That's, to me, what has been holding them back, is that very attitude. It's fun when you first start. You're a crowd pleaser. You're here to just have fun and entertain and high fly and get the crowd cheers. Bobby's business, man. And that's the struggle they had. And Michael Cole did a great job narrating that this past week, saying that that's who they've been, and they're struggling with trying to change their philosophy on how to approach winning matches. So finally, I will say that SmackDown has a really good tag team division and also includes an impressive tag team of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, aka A-Town Down Under. However, SmackDown needs SmackDown Tag Team Championships to compete for, or let them have a unified tag team division, since there was this brief interaction between the Street Profits and the Judgment Day a couple of Fridays ago. Could this be a hint for some sort of fatal four-way for the Undisputed Tag Titles at Survivor Series? DJ Kuzma signing off. Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, it's been a while since it feels like the Undisputed Tag Team belts have been on SmackDown or any kind of focal point of SmackDown. It feels like it's been a while. And that's probably what they're going to do. Survivor Series is a very multi-person match event. That's just been traditionally what it's been. So, all right. Thank you so much, DJ. And let's talk to Thomas Franco, another patron. And he says, I must say, it's quite hilarious listening to you and Anthony absolutely crucify Cody Rhodes' babyface character. I myself am a Cody Rhodes fan and want to see him do well, and he was one of my favorites during his dashing and undashing characters in 2011 to 2013. I don't have much of an issue with the babyface character, but I must say it's quite annoying to hear the what do you want to talk about week after week. You can hear the quieting of the crowd reactions too. Yeah, that's the thing. Like he I guess tries to make his image or portrays himself to be this highly intelligent man, yet does he unplug his ears after he asks that question? Does he not realize that the crowd just goes, like it's a mild, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say to it, Cody. Yeah, it's not like I'm being proven wrong here. Like, listen to the crowd. Objectively, listen. There's nothing to say. There's no response to that. You can't ask 14,000 people an open-ended question. It's a terrible idea. Other than it's just a way to mention the name of the city to get cheers. All right. I think the reason why Cody Rhodes became a little more insufferable from most is his booking ever since WrestleMania. That Brock feud did absolutely nothing for him. Brock was never there to promote the matches, and when he did, there were no promos, no vignettes, but just brawls, and Cody came out to virtually say the same thing every week. Yeah, that's not a bad point to make. I mean, the fact that we still, to this day, 6 months later, have no clue why Brock Lesnar targeted Cody, and Cody had to essentially kind of play both sides, and we all had to speculate, and even the announcers gave us flimsy ass reasons as to why Brock attacked Cody, but we never got a definitive reason, and Cody speculating and essentially cut the same promo 4 weeks in a row. That did hurt. But you know what? As much as I hate the babyface Cody Rhodes character, and some of the blame is on that character, not Cody himself, but the character being insufferable, turning that way, is management not giving a damn enough to give us a reason, which Cody could have sank his teeth into, which I think would have been more enjoyable for the feud as a whole. All right. After the feud, I believe Cody's next feud was going to be Bray, judging how they've booked him since then. It seems like creative doesn't know what to do with him, so they keep him around the Sami KO Judgment Day storyline. He hasn't had any real feuds since Lesnar, and there's not many people he can work with on Raw. That's also a thing, and you know, you're noticing a trend. A lot of this is starting to fall on creative. It's crazy that one of your top babyfaces has been directionless, outside of one program since WrestleMania. Directionless. And that's why it also, I think, continues to compound for people like myself and Anthony and others. I know there's others out there, I know, that despise the Cody Rhodes babyface character for so many reasons, but another one is when you're directionless, you stick your nose in everybody's business and you start making weird deals to bring people in, which should never be a thing with talent. And you're getting randomly involved and being the savior for everybody. It gets quite annoying. So I don't think creative has done him any favors either. In my opinion, he needs another feud, maybe with a heel Drew, and we need to see more depth in Cody's character. I want to see why we should consistently support him other than him wanting to make us happy. Please don't say that. Please, Thomas, don't say that. That may be the single worst thing I've ever heard a babyface say in 25 years. And that's not an exaggeration. That bar is pretty high. That's saying something. But Cody needs a clean loss in his next feud, too, so we can build more heat on the heel and potentially tell a different story if it's not going to be Cody Rhodes Part 2 at Mania. Yeah, he does need another feud. We need to see more depth. We do need to know why we should care. I agree. Him losing clean in the next feud could help. I mean, I think what would really help, though, is if we knew who his parents were. I think that would really help. Specifically his dad. I feel like if he brought out who his dad was, it would help. He's been keeping it a secret for a while, and I don't know. I have a hunch. I have a hunch that if he revealed his dad's identity, that it would really help his career. So if WWE's listening, hey, I'm telling you, I have this hunch. It's really strong. Take my advice. If you reveal Cody's his father's identity, I have this itch about it. Trust me. All right. Just my opinion on Cody's lack of momentum. Lastly, I'm finding SmackDown very hard to watch lately and want to ask the rest of the listeners if they're going through the same thing. Highlights of the show have recently been LA Knight, The Hurt Business 2.0, but I think Roman not being on SmackDown has been hurting the show since the draft happened earlier this year. That's all for this week. Keep up the great work. I love listening to the podcast, Thomas. Well, thanks, buddy. So, yeah, I think we've all, over the last couple of years, been spoiled with how good the Bloodline storyline was. And week after week, most of us were enjoying the hell out of it, particularly the Sammy injection and that whole story that was told for like a year. That was brilliant. Brilliant storytelling, brilliant execution. We all got spoiled. And now we're learning what SmackDown is like without that story. And so you have a bar set that high, and even when it's still pretty good, if it gets demoted a little bit without that story, all of a sudden you're feeling like it's kind of more of a chore to watch. And I think that's part of the reason why that we're feeling that. But that all aside, Roman Reigns being out this long and defending his title so sparingly, it's embarrassing, is, it hurts. It hurts. But all right. Thanks, buddy. Let's continue. And another patron here. Thank you, guys. Thank you for putting in the patron subject lines. Very helpful. Chandler. He says, let me talk to you. I want to start this off with a non-wrestling related topic. I want to know your thoughts on the recent news of an Office reboot. If you haven't heard a reboot, the show is confirmed. There's no knowledge of who's going to be on the cast or what the exact plot of the show will be. All we know is Greg Daniels, the creator of The Office, will be leading the charge on the show, and I have to imagine that a lot of original writing staff will return, but I can't imagine anything happening soon with the writers and guild on strike. But that's enough about The Office. Let's talk wrestling. Well, before we talk wrestling, it's funny. I just heard this today about The Office reboot, and I have some concerns. I loved The Office generally. I mean, after like season 4 or 5, it's like right when Michael Scott left, it kind of like went, but I still saw the whole thing, and I'd still watch the season again. I think I've seen it through 3 times, every episode, maybe more. It's a show you can just pick up at any point and watch. Great when you're laying in bed, right? It's good stuff. Love it. There's so many classic moments from The Office. And so relatable, right? Some of it's just so, being in an office is, not most of us, a good chunk of us probably work in an office. And some of the stuff that happens is just awesome. Here's the problem, though. Beyond the strike, which the strike will eventually get resolved and writers, everybody will come back together and it'll be a wonderful reunion, right? Here's the problem. And this is, again, since we're talking off topic and you asked, here's my opinion. Today's culture wouldn't allow for a lot of the humor that made The Office so great. A lot of the humor that made The Office so great was off color. It was racy at times. You had a lot of sexist jokes both ways. It wasn't just this, rag on women or something like that. But what made it great was the kind of edgy humor that you'd see in an office. And while The Office wasn't exactly 100 years ago, a lot has happened in the last, 10 to 15 years in our culture and what Hollywood has been producing. So I think Hollywood, which is actually, this is a reboot of a reboot, by the way, because The Office was a reboot of the original Office. I think it was like in the UK or something. So this is like a reboot of a reboot, but that aside, I'm concerned, though, that with how Hollywood is leaning, if you know what I mean, not getting into politics, but the way the culture is, the jokes that made The Office so great and the humor that made The Office so great is probably going to be neutered or completely warped into what their version of comedy is now. And I'm concerned about that. I'll just leave it there. All right. The LWO is so babyface, it's horrible. Zelina and Santos are much better suited as heels. I would not say Zelina. Zelina Vega, I still believe she has her best days ahead of her as a babyface champion, women's champion. I'm really rooting for her. I've been a fan of her since she was the manager during the pandemic era for Austin Theory at the time. And who is it? Legado. No, I was going to say Legado del Fantasma, but that was a group that never really happened. I can't think of the names. Angel Garza, and there's another one I can't think of. Andrade. So, I was a big fan of her back then, and I still think she has her best days ahead. But as far as Santos as a heel, Yeah, I could see that. And I still, from the previous question, I would think he's turning heel to really help LA Knight. The last man standing match was Seth and Shinsuke will more than likely be amazing. They're solid workers in the ring, and they won't have a bad match. Yeah, it's nearly impossible, barring some catastrophic injury, or an act of God. There's just no way these two can have a bad match. It's not going to happen. I'm really looking forward to this. Agreed. Jade Cargill coming to WWE is huge, but do you think she'll start on NXT or the main roster? And if you think the main roster, what brand do you think she'll be best utilized on? Yeah, I've already touched on her a little bit, but specifically, she should start, well, given how much promotion that she's had, I wouldn't be surprised if they just shot her right to the main roster if they feel she's ready. But, that's an interesting question. There's an argument to be made that she should go to NXT to help boost ratings. That always needs help. But then it's just a matter of time of like, okay, well, she's here. Can we just get her to the main roster? So it depends on how far along she is. That's the key here. We don't know where she is from that perspective of being like in the ring. Does she have everything she needs to, all the tools that the trainers feel that she's not going to injure anybody or herself? That kind of thing. Does she have a solid grasp on her character? They're not just going to throw her out there I would imagine the same exact way she was in AEW. It's also nice to see when stars are coming the other way too. Makes it feel like a bigger deal, doesn't it? But if you're going to put a gun in my head, I think she probably just comes to the main roster. That's my guess. All right. On the Raw review, you got Payback and Fastlane confused. I know, like 4 times. I know. I think the reason that happened was because it feels like Payback didn't even happen. Nothing stood out. Seth had a title match, which happens every Raw. Kevin and Sammy had a match with Judgment Day, happens every Raw. I could go on, but they're just repeating matches every show, and it's getting ridiculous. That's it for this week. See ya. Thanks, Chandler. Yeah, it's but I feel like here's the thing. I feel like pretty soon we're going to have a reset of programs. It does feel like we're watching some reruns every week sometimes, but I think we're getting close to a reset of programs. I think after Fastlane and more specifically when we get to Crown Jewel, things are going to reset in a big way because WrestleMania season's not that far off, guys. It's really not. All right. Couple more, guys. We're getting there. We're getting there. I think, let's see. We have Anthony who attended Raw. And then after this email, guys, I'll inject a voicemail just to keep things fresh, right? Good morning from California. This is from Anthony. He says, going to Raw was awesome. It had been a long, long time since I last attended a live event, and it was amazing. The wrestlers were insane athletes, as Drew is a large human being. Yes, he is. Enjoying the podcast, especially the addition of a dark show with Anthony. I understand the aversion to the Cody Rhodes character, but judging from the pops he gets, the crowd is still super over on him. My main contention is the Seth Rollins sing-along. Good Lord, that goes on way too long. I had no idea how long it goes on until you're there live. Like, wow, I was fatigued after the first 10 minutes, and then we had to play the game and sing again. It's like being in the USSR and having to clap for Stalin until he decides you've clapped enough. Yeah, that's a good point. If you go to a live event, it is exhausting. It's too much. It's too much. Guys, like, can we all agree as fans, like, you get 30 seconds. After the music goes off, like, sing throughout his entrance, right? Like, fine. If his music is on, sing your heart out. But once the music stops, the timer starts at 30 seconds. If after 30 seconds you don't shut up, the audio goes off. Like, don't even give them the time of day, and then just continue as if they're not even speaking. Like, that's what I would do. Enough is enough. I would agree. It's hijacking shows. I remember they did this to Finn Balor a few months ago when Finn and Seth had started their program again, and we all really wanted to hear what Finn had to say, and they were drowning out Finn, and it was just awful. It was annoying as hell. Kansas City, I still remember. So I would agree. Like, can we just all come to this agreement of 30 seconds and then you're done? It's also sucking up time on TV. It's too much. All right. But yeah, I agree. The pops for Cody, I've never denied that. I'm not sitting here in Fantasyland. I understand the reactions for Cody. his entrance is exciting. He's got great music. He's got the pyro. Hey, it's an exciting entrance. I understand it. I'm not denying that. And I know that's why Anthony and I and others are on the fringes. That's fine. It's the way it is. All right. The New Day has crazy fan participation and cheers, which I don't understand, but they strike a chord somewhere, I guess, after the dust has settled from the rocks. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the New Day. I've been puzzled by that for years. I mean, it literally ran out the same character for like 8-9 years, and it's with no evolution of their characters whatsoever. And I don't understand it. It's like the fans who cheer for the New Day are put under some kind of spell. They're just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. All right. After the dust has settled from the Rock's appearance, not willing to call it a return until he starts an actual program. That's a good way to put it. It was a great pop when he came out. Austin still holds the biggest title pop of all time at Backlash, I would agree, but was lackluster after. And you're right about the oddity of all three wearing black tank tops. Refuse to call them wife beaters. We need to get rid of that one. Maybe Target had a sale. Keep up the good work and have a great week. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, and thanks for sending us. I know on Twitter you were active, and I appreciate that. Giving me the Cody Rhodes play-by-play. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the wife beater thing. Yeah, the name probably should be retired, right? Black tank tops, probably better. Nothing wrong with that. But it was weird, and but nonetheless, thank you so much, Anthony, and thanks for the compliments. All right, I do have a few more emails here, but for the interest of my voice taking a break and the interest of you stop listening to my voice for a little while, let's get to our voicemail, and then we'll be right back and talk about it.
Podcast world, this is DJ Kuzma back at it again on your Mailbag show. Record to you live on a Wednesday morning, on another cold, brisk, chilly Wednesday morning as we are rolling into fall, as we are rolling into the football season. Let's get to your favorite show to come on every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Veer Mahan Report. Now, the Veer Mahan Report took place this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw, live from Ontario, California. Wait a minute. Ontario is in California? There's an Ontario in California? Ontario in California? What the hell? Ontario in California? I know I don't mean to be repeating myself, but it's just amazing to see that there's a place called Ontario, which I thought was only in Canada. There's also no place in California. But anyway, it's neither here or there. Let's get to the Veer Mahan Report, of course. My guys, once again, have not been on Monday Night Raw for the past several weeks. It feels like months. I really hope that this is not the end of this team, because last week there was a whole bunch of releases with Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin and Flop Dollar, and a whole host of others that have been released. I hope this is not the future of my guys. The initiator of my guy Veer Mahan Sangha and the modern day Maharaja. Speaking of Sangha, he just celebrated a birthday yesterday, so shout out to Sangha. Happy birthday, my brother. Much blessings and peace to you as you continue to be a part, hopefully, as you continue to be a part of this group, of the initiator of my guy Veer Mahan Sangha and the modern day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. Hopefully they'll be back on Monday Night Raw very, very soon. With that being said, this is your guy DJ Kuzma. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay healthy, my friends, and peace.
No, DJ, yeah, it is a bit discouraging. They went from having, at one point, an advertised tag team title match with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at the Superstar Spectacle in India a few weeks ago to just disappearing off the face of the earth. It's a bit discouraging, disheartening, but I will say this, as you just mentioned, with the releases, the key is their names weren't on that list. So that means that they still see some value in this team. They'll be back sooner than later. And I really enjoyed what they did, and then just they propped them up and then gone. And it's weird because in a tag team division that always needs help, just because tag team divisions always need help in WWE, I don't know why you'd exclude this group. Maybe because now that you have a tag team that are the champions that are heel, you're not going to have them compete against the Judgment Day really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But they can still compete with other teams, So this is it is a bit discouraging, but I would say keep your head up. They didn't get cut, and they had a good thing going that they can resurrect. All right, let's get to the next email, and this is from Sam. Quick email here. Sam says, hey, what about this for Mania? Rock versus Cody versus Romans. And if this was to happen, who would you have pin who? Thanks. Well, Sam, first of all, I would not make this happen. Okay, and let me just, before I answer your question of if it did, who would I win and why? I would not have this happen. And the reason is, while people feel like, oh, you could kill two birds with one stone, people that want Cody and Roman could get Cody and Roman, but you also have The Rock. No. The reason is that The Rock versus Roman Reigns must be a singles match. The Rock can't have a WrestleMania match that's a triple threat. It takes away from the specialness of The Rock having a singles match. A match that I think Cody Rhodes, if he was in this, would feel like a third wheel because it's all about Rock and Roman. It would be a little bit like, to a lesser degree, injecting Charlotte Flair into the WrestleMania 35 main event by force, not because the fans demanded it, when it was really about Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. It would kind of feel like that. Like, what? This doesn't help. No, the story here is Ronda Rousey and Becky, and Charlotte is making this worse. That's the same thing here. Now, again, you can still have Cody versus Reigns, as I said. If Cody's the one that's actually going to be traded to SmackDown, as some people are speculating, you could do Cody and Roman as soon as Survivor Series, I guess, but probably more likely at the end of the year in the Royal Rumble. Get that out of the way. Have Cody lose again, or have him win. Hell, I don't even care if he wins, because I'd actually prefer the title not to be on the line with Rock Roman at WrestleMania 40. So there. That's how I would do it. But if this match was to happen, let's play this out. Assuming it's for the title. Okay, let's assume the title's on the line. I would... that's a good question. I'd probably have Roman Reigns beat Cody and not The Rock. And then you could build to a Rock Roman singles match at the next event or at a Saudi event, something like that. Because that singles match is so special that it needs to happen. So, all right. Thanks, Sam. Hell of a question. All right. 2 more emails, and then we'll dive into the rest of the voicemails. We have David, and he says, I'm writing this a little bit earlier this time, and I actually thought that I'd be late writing in last week. So anyway, let's get down to it. I know one of the things that annoys you is when WWE comes out on the beginning of the show with someone welcoming us, which makes perfect sense when we don't need a welcome because we know what show we're watching. But let me enlighten you. Where this all started. If you remember the first ever Raw, which is in 1993, Vince McMahon had come down to the ring and welcomed us to Monday Night Raw. So I think that now WWE is trying to keep that as a tradition. As ridiculous as it sounds, it has little sentimental value to it. If that's the reason, that is a lame-ass reason on WWE's behalf. Now, you could be right. I'm not saying your reasoning's lame. I'm saying if they're doing it for that reason, they're lame. Because I don't know how they don't see that, again, right off the bat, they're telling us, or they're showing us that what they're always trying to sell of the show being so unpredictable and crazy and anything can happen. The very first thing you hear on the show is something that you know is going to be said that takes away from exactly what they're trying to make you feel. They're saying one thing and then showing us another at the very beginning of the show. But I don't know if that's the case. It's just, for some reason, it's just like this corporate requirement. It's just like built into the contracts of all of these wrestlers. It's unbelievable. It's awful. It's a small thing. Oh, who cares? It's just Raw. It's just Raw. The announcers can do it. The announcers did it just fine. No one ever was waiting for, wait a minute. No one ever looked around and say, wait, what the hell show am I watching? Can somebody tell me what show I'm watching? Stop. Not you, David, but WWE. Moving on. I got a couple scenarios involving LA Knight. Yeah. What I think is going to happen is he's going to replace AJ Styles and join John Cena to face Jimmy and Solo at Fastlane. I'm actually surprised that he didn't come out last Friday. In fact, he wasn't on the show at all. He's sick. That's from what I gather. He's actually just sick, which is weird because he's one of the hottest WWE superstars right now. But anyway, if I were WWE, I'll not have him win the Rumble because I think it'll be better if he wins the Money in the Bank. That way, The Rock can still be involved, and this is what should happen. Roman Reigns and Rock will still fight each other at 40, and with Roman winning. Before he could celebrate, LA Knight's music hit. He cashes in the Money in the Bank contract and gets a victory over Roman. But for his WWE World Heavyweight Championship, Universal Heavyweight Championship. Okay, before we get to your last scenario, that would be a heart-stopping moment. It'd be a moment that the fans would, they would still explode for, but ultimately would it hurt LA Knight? Because he'd be getting to the destination the easy way. And for all the reasons that WWE didn't give him the Money in the Bank briefcase this year, it would be magnified by 100 for not giving it to him the next year, because you are going to have him build really from scratch. His first major victory was winning a battle royal. And then he's been winning ever since, beating The Miz, fine, chasing the U.S. title. And all of a sudden you're going to get to the destination and you're going to have him just take the easy way out. I don't think that's a good way to finish LA Knight's chapter there. Because, this is a babyface character we're talking about, which is why I think the Money in the Bank briefcase is really a heel prize. Another scenario is LA Knight winning the Rumble and challenging Roman Reigns. But The Rock appears and said that this is family business, so it ended up being becoming a triple threat, with LA Knight pinning Roman after he was rock bottomed. LA Knight threw The Rock out of the ring to get the victory. What do you think will happen? Have a good one, Matt. Stay oozy. Well, David, I don't want a triple threat. I'm just not even entertaining a triple threat with Roman Reigns and Cody and Rock, or Roman Reigns and Rock and LA Knight. This specifically, not that I'm totally opposed to main events being any kind of multi-person match. Generally, I don't like that, but specifically in this case, because this should be solely focused on Rock Roman, the story, the family, all of it. We don't need a third party in there that would really muck things up and take the focus off of the story at hand. As hot as LA Knight is, I wouldn't do it. But it is an interesting conundrum they have here, because The Rock is clogging up a spot that LA Knight otherwise probably would have been heavily favored to be in at WrestleMania 40. So it's a hell of a conundrum they have here. No doubt about it. Thanks for the question, David. Let's talk to Michael. Michael S. And he says, I've heard a lot of the time talk about how Rhodes needs to turn heel, but would you see the promos go afterwards? Personally, I'd have him use an underhanded tactic to win the belts from Roman, and then the next night have him talk about how the reason his dad never won the title was because he wanted to be straight edge about how he won it. How he didn't have what it took to use any means necessary to make sure the belt came home. I think after how much he talked about how it was all for his dad to use, talking about him and not so savory spotlight would generate enough heat as a heel to instantly get him the Dominic Mysterio treatment. So, Michael, first of all, I don't know who Cody Rhodes' dad is. So you'll have to let me know. I'm not sure. Was Cody's dad, was he in some kind of sport? He wasn't a wrestler, I don't think, was he? I guess I'll have to Google it sometime. But I can't keep a straight face. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to turn Cody Rhodes heel anytime soon. As much as I would want it to happen, they're getting monster reactions for Cody still. So even if I were in charge, I still wouldn't do it because it's not best for business. Why would you turn a really hot guy that's pulling in a bunch of money, pulling in ratings? He's a draw. People come to see him. Why would you turn him heel right now? I wouldn't. Even I wouldn't. As much as I despise the babyface character. The promos from heel Cody would be brilliant. I think they would be. because all he'd have to be is essentially himself. He wouldn't have to put on this smiling kissing babies and shaking hands and telling the crowd he's going to turn his back on him. If we could indulge him for a moment, he's going to turn his back on us, as if we're sitting at home going, did that SOB just turn his back on us? Well, I'm not cheering for him anymore. No, he's doing it to just essentially tell management, I am very understanding of these are the fans, these are how the fans at home watch you. I understand that I'm not supposed to turn my back. So he's really not speaking to us at home in some kind of faux respect. He's really speaking to management behind the scenes, acknowledging that, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I want to pander to the audience and do something different that most people don't say. Ugh. Oh my God, my skin crawls for this character that he's portraying. It's crawling. But I don't think he'll turn heel yet. I don't hate your scenario, but he eventually could get Dom Mysterio heat. He could, but I don't think they're ready to pull the trigger yet. Probably not for another year. When things start to go south for Cody consistently and the reactions start to wane, then sure. All right. Let's see here. We got Chandler. I lied. We have more. So I didn't realize how many emails we had, guys. I really didn't. So I'll take this email and then do another voicemail, and I'll kind of do it that way. It's better for the pacing of the show. So, wait a minute. Was this? I don't know if this was last week. Nope. That was last week. Okay. This is from this week. Dennis. He says, hey, Matt, I heard a rumor that LA Knight was going to make the save at the end of SmackDown because of him testing positive for COVID before SmackDown. Obviously, things were changed last minute. And good old Paul Heyman finally discovered how to use his iPhone properly. I really can't stand Cody Rhodes. Thanks, Matt. Oh, well, Dennis, check. Good for you. You are now elevated to a top fan status here. Thank you. But yeah, he finally figured out how to use his iPhone. I mentioned that this past week. Maybe somebody is listening here from WWE, and just a simple fix here. Like, come on, it's childish stuff. I mean, anyway, yeah, I heard about that too. About LA Knight was going to make the save, and with him being sick with COVID, I guess. Yeah, you got to make the changes, and it did feel like a little bit of a outside of John Cena, which is weird to say. We have John Cena on the show now, who is, just in case you didn't know, because WWE told us, which now makes it enshrined in gospel, that John Cena is, without debate, the greatest of all time. A show with John Cena on the show, and in a major angle, we're talking about how SmackDown feels lame. But LA Knight not being there, who is the hot hand right now, did hurt. It did. And I'm looking forward to his return. And by the way, he could be the one to team with Cena if AJ's not able to go. That's a good point from the previous emailer. It may not be Randy Orton. It may not be The Rock. It's probably not The Rock. It's probably Randy or LA Knight. All right. So let's get to a voicemail here. And then after the voicemail, we'll, I promise, wrap up the emails. I had a couple more than I thought I did. I think this is Jason, if I'm reading the transcript of this voicemail correctly. So let's hear what Jason has to say.
Let me talk to you. This is Jason from Eugene, and I love your guys' show. My kids love listening to it too. One of the things everyone wants is that Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Except, as you put on this show, it's kind of like, well, it can't be for the title, right? Because then it's just a giveaway that Roman's going to win. But what if The Rock does beat Roman, takes the title, but then Senior Money in the Bank turns it in, knocks The Rock out with the case, and that's how we get the belt over to Damian Priest from the Judgment Day. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep up the good work.
Jason, thanks so much. I'm glad you and your kids enjoyed the show. Make sure they don't listen to the After Dark, though. I don't know how old your kids are, but if you, just you know what it's about, right? So anyway, the idea that the title on the line could result in The Rock winning isn't insane. It's plausible. Hell, The Rock was the WWE champion and beat CM Punk in 2013, right? And went on a bit of a run. But here's the thing. If after all this time, it's The Rock that beats Roman Reigns for the title, a guy that literally in the entire universe, he's probably the last person on the list that needs it. I mean, he is literally at the bottom. There's nothing you could do to The Rock's career in WWE that would be like, oh my God, well, he is now a true legend. The Rock has done it all. Everything you could imagine. This would not help Rock at all. In fact, it would kind of be, to a lot of fans, a bit of a one of those moments. I should have put in the sound effects, but I use myself. That's how cheap I am. That to me would be a letdown. Now, even in your scenario of, well, The Rock's not going to hold it for a while, it's going to be Damian Priest. Well, I still don't like that. And again, your idea is not bad. It's plausible. It's just what I would do is, that's telling the fans that The Rock had to be the bridge for someone else to be champion, and what was the point of The Rock winning? Just for shock value? And then also you're going to give it to another heel. So there's a couple of problems there, right? I mean, if you're going to give the title to The Rock, oh my God, shock and awe. And then 24 hours later, Damian Priest hits Rock in the head with his contract, his briefcase, and then cashes in. Oh my God, Damian Priest is champion. Well, Damian Priest is champion is actually kind of a fun thought. We're going from a 3+ year champion as a heel and essentially an absentee champion, which doubles down the pill to swallow, the inability to swallow that pill, to yet another heel with a 24-hour break in between if The Rock is champion. Yeah, that's the trouble. So, I don't hate it, but if The Rock's going to win, here's the thing. Even if The Rock were to win and he actually plans on, say, sticking around for 6 months and working a semi full-time schedule, which would not happen, but even if it did, I still wouldn't want it. I still wouldn't, because The Rock doesn't need it. It does nothing for him. And it hurts really the whole story. I think it would be a massive letdown of a storyline ending for that title. I'm talking about the respect of the title. I'm not talking about if Rock should win or not. There is some that believe that The Rock should beat Roman Reigns. Hell, when The Rock came back in 2011 and faced off against John Cena at WrestleMania, many people thought, well, John Cena is the hot guy right now. He's still got a few years left in him. The Rock is going to lose. And he didn't. The Rock beat John Cena. But here's the key in that one. The title wasn't on the line. Now, when the title was on the line, a year later when they faced off again in the main event of WrestleMania, The Rock lost. Right? So when the title's on the line, I still stick by it. I don't think that The Rock wins. And I wouldn't have him win. There's no scenario you could sell me on that The Rock winning. Outside of, a cool nostalgic moment for all of us millennials that watched The Rock in the late 90s, early 2000s. What a cool moment, right? And I guess it would be a nice flash in the pan feeling. But then when you realize the damage that it had done, you probably would think twice. All right. Actually, let's get to another voicemail here because I'm on a voicemail roll, and then I think this is the French guy. I think it is. So let's see what he has to say.
Alex, the French guy here, current European champion, been seeing Raw this past Monday. Want again say that the Seth versus Shinsuke Nakamura storyline is absolutely gorgeous, fabulous. I love it. You see Shinsuke Nakamura once again in the vignette with subtitles, exactly how you should book Nakamura. He exactly sounds like a villain in a Japanese story. Like, through the vignettes, you can hear, like, some songs, some villain songs. This is genius. But what I wanted to talk about is that Seth Rollins, at one point, he says, that's why I'm the best in the world. Guys, we saw that before. We saw that with Cody Rhodes the road to WrestleMania. The guys, don't tell me he's going to face CM Punk at next WrestleMania or something. This would be absolutely crazy. But on the other hand, is CM Punk returning to WWE is a good idea? He returned to AEW, creating trouble. What I want to ask you guys today, and you, Matt, is CM Punk returning WWE a good idea? That's it. Bye, guys.
I'm glad you brought that up, Alex. I didn't even... I thought to mention it, and then it went out of my head. That's why I have you guys. You're my safety net. I did hear that. I thought about it at the time, too, and I'm like, ooh, he says he's the best in the world. Now, that could have just been a kind of a little bit of a bit of a sucker punch to... and a wink and a nod to CM Punk, with it not being anything more than that. But I did notice that. And to answer your question, do I want CM Punk back in WWE? I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is no, because of all the trouble he caused AEW. And sure, some of the guys backstage are responsible for the incidents that happen. It's not all on Phil Brooks, but he did not conduct himself professionally in multiple scenarios in AEW, and embarrassed the company multiple times, and at times went into business for himself and acted unprofessionally. That's not the kind of guy I would bring in to a locker room that could potentially be toxic to it. And Seth Rollins has gone on record of saying, no, Phil, stay the hell away from WWE. We don't want you here. He's gone on record of saying that over the last 6 months. So I don't think the locker room really wants him there, but I'm sure Phil is interested in returning. I'm sure he is. Why wouldn't he? Payday, he gets to come back, maybe set his own terms for a little bit. He's not going to be working full time. So do I think Seth Rollins and CM Punk would happen? It's in the universe of possibility. He's open to it. Survivor Series is in Chicago. The stars are aligning for a return. The question is, are you going to poison your locker room? Is that a risk you want to take if you're WWE? Is there enough money I would get back from bringing him in that I have to pay him? Is he still capable of working with the people we want to match up with him? There's a lot of questions. A lot of questions with Punk. And as long as they can all come to the conclusion that it would all be a net positive, then sure, bring him back. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I wouldn't cheer for it, or rather I wouldn't react to it and think it's a big moment and get goosebumps. Of course I would. Of course. It's just, I'm thinking of this more from a business perspective. Do I want him there if I'm WWE? There's a lot of question marks. Do I think it happens? That's another question. It probably does, if I'm being honest. I think it probably does. Things are lining up that way. And I think it's very plausible. And who does he face? Hey, could face Cody Rhodes. He could face Seth Rollins. But I don't see Punk coming back for any kind of full-time run. His body's not ready for that. I mean, he has no need to do that. So, all right. Let's see. Where do I want to go next? Let's get to an email. Quick email. And this show is going way longer than I thought it would. You guys and your long emails, although this is not one. Nick says, okay, Matt, as much as I agree with you and love listening to your weekly Senator Rhodes rants, you missed a key moment on Monday night that might turn in the right direction. Cody did not ask the crowd what they wanted to talk about. Hopefully that part of his character is over. Yeah, Nick, maybe I imagined it because that's what he just does every single time in default mode. He just doesn't think and just does it because, I get to say the name of the city and they'll cheer me. I did not notice that, actually. I thought he did it for some reason. So now I'm going to keep a lookout for that. Maybe he did eliminate it. Maybe he realized, not a great idea to ask an open-ended question to 15,000 people. So thanks, Nick. I really will pay attention now. All right, final email, and it's quick. This is from Mason. Mason says, let me talk to you. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth in a last man standing match. Yeah, this is finally a time I could see Seth losing the title, because if he does lose it and then gets surgery, maybe he could be back by WrestleMania 40 and regain it there. Yeah, I spoke about that earlier. I think he would do that if he was confident that he could do that. But he's not going to go out right now if he feels like he gut it out with the pain for the next 6 months and be at WrestleMania 40. So only he and his doctors know that answer. Next, I know this isn't a football podcast, but my Niners took down DJ's Giants, and my best friend's Seahawks are going to take them down again this weekend. Well, yeah, I'm a Giants fan, although I'm not a massive football fan. I'm more of a baseball guy, and my Yankees are just, in a state of flux. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I mean, the Giants, I will say if they go 1-3, their season is in massive jeopardy because of the division we're in. With the Eagles are 3-0. And obviously you have a strong Cowboys team that has a juggernaut offense and a defense that is in like the top 5 of the league. So the Giants have a lot of question marks around them. Losing the way they did to the Cowboys, of course, in week 1 was a disaster. Having that come from behind victory against the Cardinals in week 2 was a must win, and they did. Losing to San Francisco in San Francisco was expected. I mean, I don't think anybody thought that the Giants were going to win against the Niners, and they didn't. They lost by a couple of touchdowns. But now you're 1-2, and now the Giants get to go and face the Seahawks, which are beatable, but not guaranteed. But anyway, I don't mean to get on football, but you brought it up. Finally, this is a question for Michael Ritter. But when is John going to be back on the SmackDown review? Just wondering. That's all I have to say. Yeah, that's a good question for Michael Ritter. That's a question only he can answer. So, Michael, if you are listening, or you can even tweet him. I think Michael Ritter. I know he's on Twitter. So search out Michael Ritter. He's on Twitter and he's always tweeting about wrestling. And he's got his own Football Function podcast. So check him out there. All right. I really don't know. I haven't asked, but all right. Let's go. Let's finish this up. 2 voicemails, guys, and then we're at the finish line. So let's take a look. I think based on the length of the voicemail here, it is Justin from Maryland. I'm going to guess that. So let's take a listen and see if I am right.
Hey man, it's Justin from Maryland. Hope everyone's doing well. Just want to get my thoughts on a couple of topics. So first is the Seth Rollins Shinsuke match at Fastlane. So I'm interested as far as a match quality match. As far as how the match will go, I think Seth will win. I'm interested to see as far as like if Damian Priest is going to try and cash in, because I feel like that'll be a good time. Last match standing match. Whoever wins, they're going to be like, pretty down. So I feel like it'll be interesting to see if they that or not, because I don't know if they're going to have a tag title match at Fastlane. Maybe they're setting up a 8-man or a 6-man match. So, interested in that. Just interested on your thoughts on the match in general. Next is the John Cena match at Fastlane. So it's advertised to be a handicap match. I still think they'll somehow get it to a tag match, because I think if Cena is in a handicap match, he should probably lose to put over the bloodline. I don't think he should, win. But I feel like they'll make it a tag match. I don't know where this is leading to, because Roman's supposed to come back like October 13th or the 6th, something like that. So I'm interested in where it's going to go. Are we going to get a 6-man match at Crown Jewel? Or are we just going to have Roman come back, feud with AJ Styles, and then I guess Cena's going to face Solo? Because I was thinking that they're going to do Cena and Jimmy one-on-one. I feel like that would be a reasonable match. But, yeah, just interested on that. Next is the U.S. title match. So I'm interested to see how the match is going to go. I think that Ray's going to win, but Santos, we're going to get some kind of tease that he's going to turn on Ray at some point, because I don't think that they're going to just have a match, Ray win, and, they're going to just things okay. I feel like they're trying to turn Santos heel, because I feel like that's more interesting. I just feel like the LWO is kind of still right now. I mean, yeah, they're getting wins, but they're not really, doing anything for me right now. So I feel like it makes sense to have Santos turn on Ray and then have Ray chase the title. Finally, so Jade Cargill, if I'm saying it right, she got signed. So I'm interested in that for sure. She didn't really get a chance to shine in AEW, so looking forward to her at WWE. She can definitely have great matches with Bianca, Rhea, Becky, Charlotte, all those women. So interested in that. I think that she might be the one to take the
Hey, Justin. Yeah, I mean, so I really don't know what to say about all this other than, the one thing is John Cena losing to the Bloodline. It depends on who his partner is. If it's AJ Styles and he guts it out, I think they lose to the Bloodline. If it's Randy Orton, they win. If it's The Rock, they win. If it's LA Knight, they win. I mean, so that's probably how it goes. John Cena will find a partner. It's not going to be a handicap match. The Bloodline has enough enemies, right? That'd be insane if he didn't. So, I mean, I hate to say I don't have much more of a response, Justin. I mean, if you've listened up to this point, we're nearly an hour and a half into the voicemail here, or the mailbag. But no, good insights. It's always good to hear from you. We do, though, have one more voicemail, and let's see who that is, and we'll wrap it up.
Hey, everybody. My name is Frank. I'm from Wichita. I'm a Patreon, and I want to talk about, first off, if you was to, it's a question, if you was to have another member join the Judgment Day, who would it be? A second thing was, I have a problem with the whole Randy Orton coming back. I feel like he should have kept it more of a secret or more of a surprise to shock us all. But I'm glad he is in the Performance Center and coming back. I did hear that Roman Reigns is going to show up on SmackDown finally on October 13th. And then on the Cody, I don't know about Cody. I feel like Cody has a corn cob of his butt. That's what he walks around prancing and, like he's all that and bag of chiclets, just because his last name is Rhodes. That's the way I feel. Overall, great Raw, but SmackDown sucked. Anyways, thank you, everybody, and God bless.
All right, Frank, thanks for calling in, buddy. And who would I have who would the next member be? I mean, I'm JD. It's kind of a cop-out, but he's not a member yet. I would have JD join. I really would. That would drive a wedge between Finn and Damian for good. That would split the group a little bit, or divide him. And where does Finn's loyalty lie? JD has seemingly been the saving grace for Judgment Day, even though Damian has been very resistant to bring him in. So that's what I would do. And as far as Randy coming back, should have kept it more of a secret. Well, he didn't exactly go on social media and announce it, and he came in the back door of the Performance Center. I mean, outside of taking extreme measures of constantly hiding your face, what's the guy going to do? I mean, the fans also have been predicting him to come back forever. So it's not a massive surprise if he had just shown up at a PLE for the last 12 months. I mean, I've been talking about it. Others have been too. So it wouldn't have been the shock of the century. We all knew he was on his way back. We heard, he's close, and he's not. So he was on our minds, even though he hasn't wrestled a match in 18 months. So, again, you can't expect him to be invisible. He didn't purposefully get in front of cameras. And it is what it is. We're living in the modern age of technology where everyone has a camcorder in their pocket. So it's kind of just the day and age we're living in. It's a sign of the times. But all right. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody, for calling, emailing. It was a long but productive show. I really enjoyed your questions. And if you want to join us and get priority placement on the show, patreon.com/WWE podcast offers that. And I would encourage you to check out that and join the SmackDown tier because you get exclusive content there, ad-free everything, video, you name it. And also Apple Podcasts has a subscription service too, where you can get ad-free content there. All right. That's going to do it for me for tonight and for the week. So I'm going to now go to sleep. So thank you everybody for listening. Take care. And I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.